honest to goodness, folks, if you had to relive the last 48 hours as a Cleveland Browns fan, you couldn't have made this up, which a lot of people were doing on the internet anyway. We're just kind of making stuff up. And the funniest part of it is some of the craziest conjecture from the very beginning, in one way or another, seemed to come to pass. Welcome to Moohead Radio. I'm a bewildered bovine, and joining me on the panel is Tony and Derek and Double P. Brian is in the chat room, but his emotional state right now is such that I'm not going to unleash torrents of anger and hate on the air. This show is designed to get through what has happened, to try to give each of us an opportunity to give their opinions about what happened. Before we do that, I wanted to start with Baker Mayfield, because I think it's only fair. And people know that I've been supportive of Baker, but, you know, what I will tell you is there are things that I'll quote the Bible, which you'll never hear me do again, but I know, Derek, you'll be proud of me.
Let's go.
All right. Do you know what Corinthians 13:11 is?
It says,
when I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. That's a passage that passed through my mind. And no, I'm not going Terry Pluto on everybody here.
You start beating
Baker Mayfield's been the quarterback here for 4 years, and it's been a tough run. I mean, two bewilderingly bad head coaches, a really good season, and then last year where things were, in complete disarray. He was injured, and obviously the affections from the front office waned to the point where things were teetering, and none of us realized just how much it was teetering. What I would tell Baker Mayfield today is, looking back, I look at my life when I was 27 years old, and I was a bull in a china shop too. And I worked for a lot of people. I got fired by a lot of people. Every place I went, sales went up in the radio stations that I managed, but I was 27 years old when I started that nonsense. I was 26 when I was forced to get behind the desk and try to run a radio station in Canton, Ohio, when my mother was detected with breast cancer and my dad had to leave. He owned the radio station and he had to go to Florida with her and spend his time with her. And at 26, I'm stuck behind the desk. And I learned a really valuable lesson, but I didn't really figure it out. I flunked out of school when I was 22, and I figured it out when I was 32. It's not about the talent or your ability. That's not the whole story. There's a right way of doing things, and there's a wrong way of doing things. And I could have saved myself a whole lot of problems had I learned that lesson maybe even a little bit sooner. With that said, I've worked for crazy people in my life. I mean, people that you couldn't possibly get along with. But I was headstrong. And what we had here are two headstrong parties. And the thing is that the big checkbook, the boss man, always wins out. I got fired every time because I fought the law and the law won. It took me a long time to match my mental skills for what I was doing with a personal realization that you have to work with people and you have to win the confidence of people around you before you can truly be successful. And what I would tell Baker Mayfield is, it isn't just about the strength of your arm. It isn't about the chip on your shoulder. It isn't reliving all of the things that happened to you years ago. It's now. And maybe wherever you land, and I hope it's in a good place, because I don't think that you've been treated fairly in Cleveland. I really don't. But at the same time, you brought some of this on yourself, and you have to look at your own accountability. Wherever you go next, I hope that you have a better relationship with the people on the field who are surrounding you, because you can't really have total victory without them. So I wanted to start out by at least, by explaining that. We've got a bunch of people going to be jumping into the program. There's Bronk and there's General Dog. We're going to take some turns talking about, first of all, I just want to, people are going to say, is Mr. Moohead in favor of this trade? What I will tell you is this. Deshaun Watson is a more skilled quarterback than Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
And to deny that is obviously not, there's nothing that I can use to support the opposite. All right. He came into the league. Everybody knew what his skill set was. And it's greater than Baker Mayfield. He's physically bigger, stronger, faster, has more accuracy in his throws. From that perspective, I'd say, it's great having a superior talent at quarterback. The way they went about it, I think that it almost reeks of desperation. They had already been called and told that they were out of the dance, and they kept pounding. I have to believe, and we'll never know this, that we talk about Andrew Berry and we talk about the analytics people. I don't think the analytics people come up with $230 million all guaranteed. And I think they sign off on it because the boss man is the one who holds all the cards. This is very much like Jimmy Haslam, more than it is like what we've seen so far of Andrew Berry and the analytics squad. But whether you like the trade or not, the social justice of all of this is not something that I'm going to get sidetracked on. I think everybody knows politically where I stand, and I don't like the whole thing that went down with Deshaun Watson, and the league is going to investigate it. And I'm not going to lie to you. I think they're going to have to suspend him for a period of time, but after that, it'll be all well and good. For a lot of people, I understand it will never be well and good. I understand that. But in the end, it's not my decision to make. It's the organization's decision to make. I'm here, as I've been here for 19 years, to criticize positive and negatively the influence of what this means to the team. So if you're asking me if I'm dead set against this, the answer is no. Am I dead set for it? The answer would be no. I don't know Deshaun Watson well enough, but the stories that persist are a little bit difficult and hard to get my head around. But at the same time, Baker Mayfield, by writing his farewell letter, and I understand why he did it, he wanted to leave in the end, and I can understand why. I get it. But he basically became a hardliner like the people he was dealing with. And there comes a point, players are employees, and they do wield some power. The quarterbacks wield more of it than anyone. And more free agents will probably want to come to Cleveland because we have a legitimate, guy who's a quarterback who is looked upon as one of those unique talents. So that's where I stand. I'm going to start with Tony the Calf. We're going to go down the line, give everybody an opportunity to talk about this. Peter, you're back on the chat room. Tony, what What do you say?
I'm at more of a wait and see approach on the deal. Watson's had some really bad years and some really good years. I'm not too keen on the sheer amount of draft capital they had to give up.
Okay, and so
From what
to get
I've
that clarified, it's 3 consecutive years, first round picks, correct?
starting this year, I believe.
Yes, 2022, 23, and 24. We don't have first round
I
pick.
have it in front of me if you want to hear the full trade.
Yes,
And my understanding is we swapped 5th,
Yeah.
and we
fifth
gave up
for
an
a
additional
fourth.
3rd and 4th.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so here's the full trade. The Texans are receiving the Browns three first round picks for 2022, 2023, and 2024. The Texans will receive the Browns 2023 third round pick and the 2024 fourth round pick.
Right.
Browns
It
are
doesn't
getting
affect
Deshaun-
our picks this year in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th,
Yes,
7th round.
which,
Right.
Yeah. And the Browns are getting Deshaun and a 2024 fifth round pick. That is the complete trade.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Tony.
I just with Amari Cooper is your number one receiver. But my God, how good this team could look with getting one of those top receivers this year.
Well,
I
and
don't
again,
think any of them are going to be there in the second round now.
well, okay. If you're, and this is what we will also discuss a little bit down the road. But the bottom line is, there are more wide receivers, guys like Will Fuller and people of that ilk, who would want to come to Cleveland now that would never have considered it before. And you have Baker Mayfield. There are a couple of teams, and the Colts and the Seahawks. Don't let the Seahawks try to sell you that they believe in Drew Lock.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
No, but you're
I
not
mean-
getting a first round pick for Baker Mayfield. I mean, come on.
believing in Drew Lock is like believing in the Loch Ness Monster. I mean, no. So the real question is, can you peddle Baker Mayfield in order to move up out of the second round into the first round of the draft? Keep going, Tony.
That is a valid point. I don't, I don't know if this moves the needle enough. I mean, you have to be able to, I mean, the Bills and the Chiefs are 1 and 2 in the conference. And that's a gauntlet to beat those two nonstop. I mean, you look at the Chiefs are getting better. They just got, Juju Smith-Schuster. The Bills, I mean, they picked up fucking Von Miller. Does this put the Browns in that upper echelon category? Probably not.
You can imagine what would have happened to the Browns. Really, I mean, looking at it from two different perspectives, what was fair to Baker Mayfield, and then looking at it from, if you own the team, you sit there and you see, oh my God, Buffalo, they just got Von Miller, and oh my God, Cincinnati's got Joe Burrow, and oh my God, Lamar Jackson, if he re-signs long-term, we're going to be having to face him. All of these things happening all at once, and you're like the orphan child.
Yeah.
So I understand the pressures that were on the organization to do this.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I mean, there was talk, there's a report, they tried to get Kirk Cousins from the Vikings before we signed him. So, but yeah, it was Baker and 2 day 2 picks that the Vikings turned down. But you're also counting on this because of now the cap situation. Now, next year, luckily, his cap hit is only $1 million in the event he gets suspended, which
Right.
that is a very wise move. But you're counting on a lot of your young players in the secondary, in your linebacking core, on your defensive line to make big leaps.
Well,
And if they
I'm going to
don't-
play devil's advocate so I can jump in and say, you would never be able to convince me that there's anything stopping the Kansas City Chiefs offense or the Cincinnati offense once they have an established offensive line in place, or the Buffalo Bills once they get, and everything that they're going to have. I mean, you can't win with defense the way the rules are in the league, the speed, and it's just like trying to slow a game down in the NBA today. It ain't going to happen. Without athletes, you're not going to win. So my counter to that is to say you either try to stay relevant or you become what nobody wants the Browns to be, and that's what they have been for the last 22 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to wait and see approach on this. I hope they do well, but I also have my doubts. So,
all right, Mr. Frisbee.
All right, I'll try to keep this as quick as possible.
Sure.
I'll say this in respect to Baker Mayfield, just to get this out of the way first. I think as Browns fans, and I know myself, I'm very, very grateful for what Baker has done. Obviously, it's been a wild roller coaster, the good and the bad. But the hope that we got in 2018, picking him number 1 overall, and after that rookie year, I don't think you can really put that into words to us as Browns fans. So I definitely hope for Baker's sake that he can learn from this whole situation. I hope that he ends up in the right spot, and I hope he can be successful because he does have NFL talent. And I've always said that. I think he just needs to get his head straight. So for him, I hope he ends up in the right spot. As far as the Deshaun Watson trade, Peter can attest to this. It's been a wild, wild week. Not a lot of sleep. Got to talk to a lot of people never thought I would be able to talk to. The moral side of things, I completely understand a certain group of, the Browns fan base who have their reservations, don't like this. I get that. You're allowed to have your opinion. It's a very high risk, high reward type situation here. For the Browns, getting Deshaun Watson, to me, it's almost hard to explain because I don't think we can really comprehend that Andrew Berry gave up no players. The Cleveland Browns kept all of their players. They gave up 3 first-round picks. We've already been through that. You still have your second rounder this year, your 2 third rounds this year. They are going all in to win now. I'm happy in terms of the organization realizing what they have and going forward with what they feel is the best way to win. I certainly hope that Deshaun Watson understands how much of a risk this is for the Browns. I hope that he is fully committed to being the best him that he can be. I pray to God that this stuff is not true. I'll say this. I believe in the end that Andrew Berry, being an African-American GM, getting his foot in the door, sitting down next to an African-American quarterback in this league and saying, going over this stuff, I truly believe that Andrew Berry would not have done this if he's not confident in terms of the whole cases and stuff. And I'm not going to get into that, but I will say that what Andrew Berry did today is I'm speechless. I cannot believe that he pulled this off. I believe that the Cleveland Browns are a team now that is set up to win, it all. Obviously, you talked about the teams, right? The Bills, the Broncos now with Russell Wilson. But this team has been built over a long period of time, right? The 0-16, 1-15 years, even recently, the Freddie Kitchens year where you get a high pick. We have been building this team with young guys. And they had, and again, this is in my opinion, everything was set up, right? Unfortunately, Baker wasn't the guy, and that was the piece that we were missing. We now have that guy. We now have a quarterback who can go into Buffalo, could go into Kansas City. I'm trying to remember the others, Denver, and we can compete. So another big factor in this, and I'll wrap up with this. Yes, the contract is ginormous. I get all that. But the TV deals and that whole stuff will be going into effect. So obviously it's not going to be a good contract by any means. But I think today where we sit, it looks like this huge, massive number. I think that the hit in terms of long term isn't going to be as bad as where we sit right now. And what you said on players wanting to come here, I 100% believe that. Jadeveon Clowney is already expected to come back. I saw there was a report, a free agent that just left the Browns. I believe personally it's Jarvis Landry, said that he's willing to come back. This team has just elevated itself to the next level. Okay.
And to respond to what you're saying, Derek, there is one thing that mystifies me in all of this. As radically separated as people are opinion-wise about this deal, that with the exception of an OMG from Donovan Peoples-Jones that really turned out to be a shock about the Devontae Adams trade, there has been absolutely nothing uttered by any Cleveland Brown at all in social media. And this is the age where people show their everything right up front. And as much as I feel, because I lived through it myself, to be 27 and have a chip on your shoulder, the bottom line is that the players who shared the locker room with him don't have his back.
You're talking about Baker?
That's right.
Yeah. Just to respond to that real quick, I think, and this is not me. Please don't take this as me saying I was right. Please don't take it like that.
Okay.
But when I said I see no way Baker's the starter next year a long time ago, it wasn't because of anything in particular. It's just these things have been adding up over time. Right. And I think, we talked about the speculation of the locker room stuff. The real telling factor, I think, in all of this was the whole Odell Beckham situation completely tore us apart organizationally, locker room wise. There was no coming back from that, in my opinion. So I think regardless, even if we didn't end up getting Deshaun Watson, I believe 100% we were going to have a new quarterback.
You know what's amazing? And we'll get on to Bronk next.
Yeah,
the thing that's amazing to me is the whole OBJ thing, which just seems so far off in a rearview mirror. And here are the Rams saying, well, we think we still kind of want to bring you back, OBJ, because of course they've added to their wide receiving core during this period of time. How quickly things change for players in the NFL. And that's, we're going to go over to Bronk now from merry old England. What's up, Bronk?
Wow. Oh my God. I don't know where to start. But first of all, I'll start with I hope that one day we can all see Baker Mayfield's name up in the Ring of Honor at Cleveland Stadium. I hope that there's some sort of reconciliation. And the fact that this kid gave the franchise hope when he was a rookie, got us a win that we hadn't had for 20-some months, and then got us a playoff win against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. I mean, the guy's already a legend as far as I'm concerned. And I hope he finds a good landing spot. And what I would have to say about Jimmy Haslam is that he's proven that the moral issues regarding Deshaun Watson's alleged behavior and the moral issues regarding Baker's alleged chemistry with the team and all that mean about as much to Jimmy Haslam as the moral issues of invading Ukraine mean to Vladimir Putin. I would say that Jimmy Haslam's no longer the owner of the Browns. He is now officially an oligarch, and that we should be treated as such in the sense that his family has massive political power in Tennessee. He's rich. He got a hold of the Browns, and does anyone know the circumstances of how he ended up being the Browns owner? So all of those things, he has now put his entire future on the line with this deal. And remember when Art Modell put his entire future on the line with Andre Rison, and that blew up in his face, and I think blew up Andre Rison's home as well. So Let's hope that doesn't happen. I mean, I still want to see us win the Super Bowl, and I understand why people now don't want to follow the Browns because of who is now our quarterback, our number one quarterback. What going forward, I would suggest would be that the Browns somehow leverage Baker Mayfield out to another team in a situation where we can go up in the draft and draft somebody to protect Deshaun Watson so he doesn't get injured in the first freaking games that he plays. Imagine that if we have Conklin get hurt and we have to have James Hudson, the 25th, out there guarding Deshaun Watson's backside, and he gets clobbered by J.J. Watt in the second game of the season and is crippled for the next year. I mean, I think we now need an offensive lineman in our whenever our first pick is going to be, whether we go up, we go down, we trade down, whatever. But I hope we get something meaningful for Baker Mayfield. I mean, I thought yesterday before this deal was announced that we were going to end up drafting a quarterback at 13, and we were going to get some muppet like the Malik or some other Ritter or some other guy that would be just somebody who'd not be an NFL quality quarterback because we're panicked that we had to draft somebody. So now that we got this guy who's got so much baggage, I hope he understands that this is a demanding fan base and he better toe the line and behave himself. Otherwise, this team will end up imploding and probably even leaving Cleveland like it did when the Ryzen deal went bad on Art Modell. Right. Thank you for no interruptions there from everyone. That's the first.
We
time
had
I've been
decided
able to say
before the
anything.
show began that people are going to get their segments to speak because this is obviously
That's
huge.
the longest in about 3 years I've spoken without interruption on the program. So well done. And I see Spitter Dave's in the chat room. I'd love to hear his take, or see him again pop up on the show, and WRX Chad, and whether there's anybody else out there from the old days like in
let me do the Spitter Dave real quick. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
All right, here we go. I'll tell you, Moo, this has got to be the best thing that ever happened to the Cleveland Browns. I don't care about no Baker Mayfield. He didn't do nothing. He didn't do shit for the Cleveland Browns. Not like this Watson guy's going to do. This is going to change everything for us. Okay, there. I did.
You forgot the magic word. You said it's an aberration, Moo. It's an aberration.
I'm going to kick a ball from half court through the hoop. Okay, we're going way back in Moohead history. All right, next is General Dog. General Dog.
Are you going to comment to anything I said? I mean, do you have any?
I'm going to comment more, but I want to make sure everybody gets theirs in. Are you there, General Dog?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, fire away, my friend.
So after I've had a chance to calm down, I want to say that I'm outraged. And here's why. Our general manager, Andrew Berry, has gone on to say that our mission statement was to acquire tough, smart, accountable football players. And I was 100% on board with that. And let me ask you, how is acquiring Deshaun Watson in line with that mission statement? 22 women are not lying. Or at least it's very unlikely that 22 different women are lying. Okay. So accountable? Yeah. Smart? Yeah. No. Just no. Deshaun Watson, his quarterback rating since he entered the league has never gone below 98. And we have a small sample size for his abilities, but he is unquestionably a better, more talented quarterback than Baker Mayfield. But that said, Baker Mayfield has done things for this team that no quarterback has done since Bernie Kosar, and that's going back 30 years. How do you treat a player who has done that for us like that? That's beyond comprehension to me.
Well, and I will answer this because, again, I asked myself these questions when I was getting fired in Tennessee, when I was getting fired in the state of Washington. And it's like, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers, for God's sakes. You hired me and these were the numbers, and look at your revenue now since I came in and started operating these things, and it didn't matter. And what they did to me was, they always choose the same avenue, which is they immediately want to attack. They go into personal attack mode. One place fired me and accused me of stealing contest prizes from the radio station, like I really needed to do that. And the place in Washington, they planted a piece of pornography on the desk of a secretary at the station and accused me of doing it. And it's like, look, you got the power. If you want to fire me, but why do you have to denigrate me? In that regard, I'm totally on board with what you're saying. The unfortunate thing is that in every instance, I was aggressive with ownership. And when they had their chance, it wasn't just aggression. They squashed me like Sasquatch would squash me. They had all of the leverage, and I was just a guy trying to do what I wanted, what I could do, but I went about it like a bull in a china shop. Baker Mayfield's a bull in a china shop, and he learned a lesson. And that lesson is there's nobody with these people who are indispensable. If you watch the movie North Dallas 40, there's nobody on the team that's more important than this here computer or knows more than, okay. The bottom line is that players are disposable. And they're disposable after they're done playing with brain damage. And I wish people would have more, reverence toward the players who played this game decades ago and now can't even put together a structured sentence because of it. But it's always been this way. And I've told you this about the NFL. These men, these 32 white men, they control, they control everything that happens in the league, and they do what they want to do. And if you want to take them on, you're going to realize that you can't win. And Baker Mayfield, I hope, is a smarter, wiser 27-year-old man wherever he goes next, and that he wins over the players in his locker room. He may never win over management, but the bottom line is I did a lousy job at 27 recruiting all the confidence from the people who were in the building. I was fighting everybody because I had a chip on my shoulder too. And that's a mistake, and he's got to learn from that.
No, I just want to point out real quick, the owner of the Titans is actually a woman.
That's true. That is true.
But also, talking about numbers, Baker Mayfield's lowest quarterback rating was 83.1 in 2021. Or I'm sorry, it's actually 78.8, which is 2019 year. And Deshaun Watson's lowest quarterback rating was in 2019 when he had a 98.0. Everything else is well above that.
And it was good to hear from you too, Spinner Dave. Glad you're out there and doing well in the world. Go ahead. Were you going to add anything else, General Dog?
No, I mean, the move, I kind of get the move from a front office standpoint, I suppose. But again,
it's hard.
The moral compass is, I mean, our owner is a scam artist. Bottom line, our owner is a scam artist, and you can't expect any kind of moral compass from an organization owned by a scam artist. Bottom line.
Yeah, you know what the funny thing is that one of the things that I tweeted was that Jimmy Haslam's obviously been watching the NBA, but that it's a superstar driven thing. But you got to say this: the people in our division, the Bengals, got their quarterback organically from the draft. So did the Buffalo Bills. So did the Baltimore Ravens. But of the recent vintage, Tampa Bay, through bringing in the quarterback and literally giving him whatever he wanted, won Super Bowl. And Stafford was brought in to do work for the Rams. The new style is if you can bring it in that way, anything to win, anything to win. I don't believe that. I believe you can win and do it in an honorable way. But in the NFL, in the race between 32 people who are owners, they will do anything. I'm bringing Jim in also, Hammer, and we're doing this sequentially. General Dog, your opinions are always, I don't disagree with what anyone is saying in one respect, because I could stand on my soapbox and say that Jimmy Haslam is a thief. He is a proven thief. And if you want to go back and say Baker Mayfield's a piece of shit because look what happened in his career and batted down passes and interceptions, then what in the fuck is Haslam's career record as owner of the Browns? If you want, I can throw this back at both sides, and I can make a plausible argument for either side. But don't tell me that Jimmy's a hero, because Jimmy's fucked everything up. He lied and said, I'm going to sit in the dog pound. It's like, yeah, I'd like to put you in a fucking dog pound. I don't like Jimmy Haslam.
He's a trust fund baby. He got everything from his daddy, just like Jim Irsay for the Colts.
That's right.
He's not a self-made man.
Nope. And he had nothing to do with the success of that organization. He didn't build it. And he hasn't built this either, and he's trying to buy this. But let's be honest. If you're going to criticize one man's record, you have to criticize another man's record. And you have to criticize Deshaun Watson now for his record. And you have to look at this equally. And that's what this show is. It's a give and take. And I haven't made up my mind yet. My head's still spinning, honestly.
My very last thing I want to say is that Deshaun Watson did have coaching challenges in Houston, the same as Baker Mayfield. And he's put up better numbers. Take that for what it's worth.
All right. Now we're going to move over to Double P. It's your turn.
All right. So before I start, I just want to say I might say some things that are controversial, nothing political, though. So first, I just want to give out a shout out to Hot Take Tommy, because he was on this from the beginning. But
yes,
Hot Take Tommy was wrong in a lot of instances, too. I've been living on the internet and reading what these people said, so I'm not. No, I'm not saying that anybody was, clairvoyant.
All right. So first on Baker, and I just want to say this first, that first I want to thank him because he did a lot for our team. And my favorite Baker moment was after we beat the Steelers, him running back to the locker room and saying the Browns is the Browns after Juju said it, or whoever said it on the Steelers the week before. Because that's been a saying that we all are familiar with, and we've been beaten over the head with it. We know all the countless different losses that we had, and that seemed like a real turning point for our franchise. But
let me say something about that. For every good thing, just like handing the ball to Hugh Jackson, and you know what I thought about Hugh Jackson. But when you antagonize people because you have a chip on your shoulder, then you are going to rub things and people the wrong way. So take that for what it's worth. Continue.
But on top of that, this week has kind of been for Baker, like a Hulk Hogan moment for me, because I really loved him, but some of the stuff that are coming out about him, I think he's kind of a bad teammate and a leader. Not to take away what he's done, but when you go behind your team when they sit you down for an injury and then get a second opinion from another doctor and go out to play again when they stop you, that's putting yourself first and not the team. And allegedly what I heard was, yes, the team wanted to sit him down, but D. Haslam just said, let him play. And he just played. And he's given up on his team after the Lions win. And after the Week 17 loss with the Steelers, I think he could have just handled it better. And I know he's a hot-headed guy, and it was in the moment. But I'm just a little shaken on how I feel about Baker. But that was my thoughts on Baker. And then on the whole Deshaun thing, As a black man in America, I think obviously everything's so polarized today, and I'm not discrediting none of the women who are going through this, but I'm not for Deshaun. I'm not for the women. I just want to let all the facts come out because we just don't know. But about Deshaun Watson himself, the player, I remember watching him that 2017 season when Nick Saban was getting all that Bear Bryant talk, like, oh, he's the greatest, and that Alabama team was looking really scary. And I'm just thinking to myself, I don't know how Deshaun's gonna beat this team. And he got sacked and he got beat up that game, but he kept his uniform on and he played well and he won that game for them. And Dabo himself said that whoever drafts him is getting a Michael Jordan type player. And if you say that about anyone, that's a competitor and that's someone I want on my team. And my last thing I just want to say, as a 21-year-old guy, I haven't watched football for a long time, but I've been following football my whole life. I loved reading about football history, and a lot of the teams early on that were great were the Browns, the Packers, the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, they're still good. The Packers, they're still good. And I'm just happy that hopefully now we're set up with this really good roster. We still have 8 draft picks this year to build onto our team that's now having less holes now that Deshaun wants to come back. And I'm just excited because I really think the Browns can reestablish themselves as one of the great NFL franchises because we have our Jim Brown and Nick Chubb, and now we have a winner at quarterback because everything I've read about Otto Graham was that he just got the job done and he won. So I'm just excited for this moment that we have to reestablish ourselves in the NFL.
I'm leaving Daniel Philak's comment on the screen. Daniel and I have been talking back and forth through all of this craziness. I don't believe in the Baker was very selfish argument. And the reason I don't is honestly, if Jimmy Haslam can say, write a $230 million check and just close this damn deal, I'm sick and tired of going back and forth and just give it all guaranteed to him. You know, he has all the marbles. He can do anything he wants. All right.
Oh, real quick. I was just going to say then, what do you say? Because I was on Baker's side, but after that letter, what do you say about the letter that he posted the night? Because you have Jimmy G, he didn't do anything. Matt Ryan, he hasn't said anything. Tua hasn't said anything.
But that's who Baker is. Baker shoves the ball into Hugh Jackson's gut to rub it in. That's who he is. And he's young and he's headstrong, and that will rub some people the wrong way. My feeling about all of this is not Baker being selfish. If they didn't want him to play, he would not have played. I mean, let's at least be reasonable about this. If Jimmy Haslam tells Andrew Berry, write a $230 million check and take care of this shit, he's going to do it because the boss man has spoken. It's ridiculous for them to turn around and try to turn this on a 27-year-old and say, oh, he's selfish for playing. They were the ones who, in the end, made the decision. If they would have said Baker's not going to play, he could have done nothing about it. He was not being selfish. He was trying to do something that he was incapable of doing. And when you're 27, there's a lot of things you're incapable of doing, except in your own body and in your own mind, you feel that you're capable of doing them. I don't look at it as a fatal flaw in Baker Mayfield, but it's something he needs to clean up to get more people behind him. And like I've said, if no Browns players have stood up for him during this period of time, I'm not in the locker room. I can't tell you what moments have been shared there, but nobody speaking up for him definitely tells me something. And it makes me wonder if he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I know I did when I was young. I didn't start getting my shit together until I was 32, honest to God. All right, Jim, it's yours, the floor.
God, there was so much content for me to talk on. First off, you actually have your shit together. But anyway, the second one would be no one went to Baker's birthday party either, from what I heard. Okay. The other one is Andrew Berry going all Sonny Weaver Jr. on us here and basically trading away the future of the Cleveland Browns and didn't get David fucking Putney in the deal. I don't understand how that didn't happen, but nonetheless, Andrew Berry's put his balls on the line right now, probably as you said, at the insistence of the owner and saying, this is what we're going to do. You're going to make this happen. Because obviously Barry's done a hell of a job. A year ago, if you thought where we were a year ago, when we had Beckham, even though he had been hurt, we knew he was going to be coming back. We had Jarvis. We knew he was coming back. We had the running backs. We had the defense. We were coming into the draft hoping we had something good. And just coming off that great season, we thought this is going to be it. And now, a year later, we lived through that whole shitstorm of 2021, which was nearly as bad as everything else politically, whatever. But we lived through that shitstorm. Baker, as you said, the one comment you just said, Moo, was perfect about it. If they had told him he wasn't going to play, he would not have played, right? Deshaun Watson just went through an entire year of being told he was not going to play.
Right.
So the coach makes a decision. The GM makes a decision. The owner makes a decision. If they didn't think that their best chance of winning was with Baker Mayfield, as broken as he was, then they probably wouldn't have played him because they want to win. So there you go. I mean, everything Bronx said about Baker, I swear, I will wear my Baker Mayfield jersey proudly. I have 2 of them. I hadn't bought a Browns jersey other than Joe Thomas in 20 years. The last Browns jersey I had bought before was Randy Baldwin, number 23, because of the kick returner. So it had been more than 20 years, but 1990 something. So I mean, he inspired me as a fan because of that cocksuredness, that swagger, that stuff, sticking the ball in Hugh's belly and grabbing his crotch and all the stuff like that. I go away for a week to Oklahoma and the world fucking explodes. I mean, what's going on here?
It forces us on the panel to really show all of our cards, because there's no way to prepare for a program like this. I mean, everything is just unraveling right in front of you. Omar, you're right about that. I don't think that the receivers believed that Baker Mayfield was a good quarterback.
Hey,
and we saw, Beckham thrived outside of this organization. And we've pretty much been putting it on Stefanski's shoulders and saying it's the offense, that you have an offense that's run and tight end centric. But obviously they think they're going to be able to do something. And in the past, Watson has been nothing but a stellar competitor. When they've lost, when he's been playing, it hasn't been because of the offense. It's because their defense has failed them, because probably now because they have so many ex-Browns. But it's one of those kind of things. So, yeah, here you go. Does he bring baggage with him? Oh, man, it's a Brinks truck worth of baggage. My goodness, this guy's, there's some baggage there. There's still civil suits out there. Dude just signed a, $60 million extension on top, thing to put him in the stratosphere. That'll pay off all that stuff. So he's not going to, whatever it is. So in the clause, I heard something about the contract that his clause for his first year,
$1 million,
$1 million,
yeah.
And then all the incentive stuff. Yeah. So, obviously that's a cap move, whatever. I'm sure the Treader thing was a cap move as well. We knew Jarvis was going to be a cap move, and he hadn't played like the 3rd highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. So that was going to happen. But as Derek and others have said on here, this opens the door for free agents to want to come here. Yes. You now have an attractive situation. Why did Gronk come out of retirement to go play with Tampa Bay? Because his quarterback went there. Why? There are people that are going to want to play on this team, regardless of the fact that it's Cleveland and in Cleveland and everything else. So, the signing of Cooper, or the trade, the deal for Cooper itself, kind of gave you a little hint that they're playing, but they're playing for now. You know, they're playing. They got the cards on the table. They're playing for now, and the future is going to have to be now. The bad part about it is you got a Josh Allen who has just a tremendous team up there in Buffalo, who's lost some pieces, but they're gonna get pieces back. You still have Kansas City, regardless of whatever you want to say at Kansas City. So, and obviously the Chargers are up and comers. You know, the Bengals are certainly went to the Super Bowl. They have nothing but upside. So, it's going to be a challenge, but hey, the feeling today is still giddy and nervous, right? Is that a good?
Well, I think everybody is. We watched the Browns for a lot of decades, some of us, and things have gone wrong. And everything from, oh, we got our coach, Bill Belichick, and then it's like, no, he didn't become a good coach until he left Cleveland, right? We've seen a lot of this sort of thing. Spinner Dave, the full story is that once they were told no, the Browns continued to pitch Watson's people, and that Watson's people spoke to him, and that he changed his mind and called Barry back personally. So there's what you're saying is true, but the Browns kept at him, and they didn't just walk away and say, well, we're forlorn. They continued battling that way. That would make Pat Shurmur proud. Go ahead.
Do you want me to talk about that Haslam report that I was talking to you about?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I talked about it a little bit earlier, but me and Peter were on a ton of Twitter Spaces talking to a bunch of different people. If I'm correct, I can't say this for sure, so please do not go DMing her or anything like that. But I got to talk to Sheena Quick, who covers the Panthers. She's a Panthers beat writer in Carolina.
All right.
So basically, I believe it's her. If it's not her, this is what was said. Somebody in another organization, another front office, and it wasn't the GM, but somebody in the other front office told Jimmy Haslam that if the Browns go in on Deshaun Watson, he will choose them. Now, what I was DMing you, Moo, about was that
maybe he'd been duped.
Yes, that basically what had happened was they did this to cause the Browns essentially to have this massive disaster, was kind of what was being talked about. That was a complete lie, that Deshaun Watson had no interest in coming to Cleveland, and basically all that. So, yeah, I guess somebody said, hey, if you go for Watson, he's 100% locked to come to Cleveland. And then it was being talked about like, no, we were lied to. And then all of a sudden this happened. So, I mean, it has been a wild week, to say the least.
Well, I don't think nobody could claim that they were on top of this story, because
no.
This was just like the surprise ending in a movie where everyone jumps out of their seat at the end of the movie,
That's the craziest part. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, that is the craziest part about this entire thing. Talk to Benjamin Albright, talk to Sheena, talk to a former player. All these reports, right, throughout the week have been different. One person, Benjamin Albright, I talked to, he said there's no chance. And I was upset at him for that. And I told him that. I said, I don't see how
he didn't know.
Yeah. But I was upset in the terms of, I think it's very disrespectful to Cleveland to just flat out and say you have no chance. So but I'm saying there were so many different reports. There was people saying no chance. There was people saying he was leading to the Browns. And then there was people saying they're still in it. And then it was, hey, the Browns are out. And it's just this wild roller coaster. And it's all led to now. I mean, I'll never forget this. I will never forget this week and the roller coaster and everything that's happened.
And I tell you, I've been doing this for 19 years, and it's never been like this before. And I'll tell you, it has stretched the boundaries. I mean, to be completely open with the audience. I mean, Derek and I were going back and forth. There were so many people on Twitter who had taken these hard right and left stands, these black and white stands, and that we couldn't detect any gray or commonality from what people were seeing. And right when it looked like you were going to get him, you weren't going to get him. And then when you were sure it was over, you ended up getting him. And Derek, myself, and Daniel, and a bunch of other people, we're all over scouring the internet. And I was right out there with
24/7, 4 in the morning.
Frustrating as hell. Frustrating as hell because you don't know exactly what you want to happen. You just want something to happen. And it's like, oh, please don't go into freeze mode where it's going, I'm going to take more time. There was the one comment that came out where it was like, wow, he is just so torn that Deshaun Watson, there's no timetable on his decision. Yeah. And I think people started cutting their wrists at that point.
And right after that was when it came out that Cleveland was out. And I was relieved because I thought, you know what? If we're not getting him, I'd rather know now. I don't want to go more days.
Exactly. But, so Derek and I were banging heads against each other because what we were hearing from different sources were completely different. The guys who were on the beat were saying completely different things. The people on TV were saying very different things. Watching television for an hour and a half before the program today on the NFL Network, and my God, those people, it's like their jaws, you can see their jaws falling to the floor because not fucking Cleveland. And even that in and of itself, to me, it destroys that narrative. And the problem for Baker Mayfield is wherever he goes, the question is he going to be a starting quarterback or is he going to have to compete with somebody else? And if he is a starting quarterback and he gets the reins handed to him, and let's say it's Seattle, after everything that you're trying to follow Russell Wilson in Seattle, and it's like a guy who won a Super Bowl and got you into the playoffs and was very popular in the market. And, can you hold up your end? And that's going to be a problem for Baker Mayfield, no matter where he goes, is that he's going to become part of a narrative. The narrative in the media always takes the black and white, which is who won? Did the Browns win or did Baker win? And if
We're
Baker
rooting for him, by the way, I think all of us Browns fans want Baker to succeed, or at least on my side of things.
I just wanted to add real quick.
Yeah.
Just like Derek's been saying, I've been since like Saturday, I've gotten maybe like 16 hours of sleep. And just something I learned from this week that the whole reporting road is just so wild. And I think it's important to know where these sources are coming from because everyone's going to say something. But obviously, if it's not confirmed by like the two big ones and Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, you got to check where the sources are from when people say certain things because a lot of people are just trying to have just their come up and like, oh, I broke it first and I did this because there was a Falcons guy kept saying, oh yeah, Deshaun, he's going to come. He's on the plane here and stuff like this. So it's just very eye-opening. And I'm going to say this, it's very controversial, but I'm going to say sorry to Mary Kay Cabot because she clearly has it in because she's kind of been right this whole time.
Boy, is she going to take a victory lap.
Well, I'll tell you something about that. And I'm not going to be stubborn about anything, but her headline, the last headline that she had was that the Browns were going after Derek Carr, and she had Derek Carr as the number one guy. And Oakland, Las Vegas had already said they're not going to move off of him because they're bringing everything in there. They're not going to put some new guy in there. So she doesn't know shit either. I'm just going to be honest with nobody called this. Nobody was prescient, SAT word. And I don't come on here and sit here and try to tell you that I have any idea what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not an insider. I've just been doing this a long time. But nobody had this nailed.
And Moo,
Yeah.
I think just to say this quickly, me and you going back and forth was never anger between me and you, or at least not on my side.
Not at all.
It was just I was seeing things and then I was hearing people back it up, and I was just getting frustrated because it was like you're hearing one thing and
It's
I'm hearing the
frustration is
other,
what it
and
was.
just so and it's for all of us Browns fans. I think the one important thing to learn here is be careful who you trust, because I mean, even who was it? Rappaport came out and said we're out, and it was dead. It was done.
Absolutely.
And right here, so anything can happen in the NFL.
But you know that there have been multiple players,
Oh,
Derek, that have changed their mind after agreeing to a contract in principle, who bailed out. I mean, the offensive lineman. The guy who was from Green Bay went to the Ravens.
Yeah.
Who bailed on them.
Yep.
I mean, there were a couple of instances where people just did just a 180 and just after, in principle, before the signature got put on the contract, decided they were going to do something else. So this is very hard to predict, and players have decisions that they have to make that will, affect them for the rest of their lives. Baker Mayfield does not have a decision as to where he gets traded, but how hard he works and how he learns to manage a locker room is going to influence his free agency life, his life after his rookie contract. And he's got that in his hands to some degree. He has to make some changes. That's the bottom line. And Deshaun Watson obviously has to make some personal choices to become a better citizen. There's no doubt about that.
Correct.
And that's what it comes down to is, there are a number of things and people who are going to have to grow up, change, become better people, or whatever the situation is. Stefanski and Brett is going to be underneath an examination light, sign the papers, old man. If the offense looks stalled again, he's out of there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Stefanski's under a massive hot seat right now.
Oh, my God.
It's on fire.
It ain't going to be Watson's fault. It ain't going to be Amari's fault. It's going to be the finger. And it's going to be pointing at Stefanski. Totally. And, and he's going to call the plays.
Yeah.
Wow. And Watson, sorry, Derek. Watson has never had this sort of running game behind him wherever he's played. I mean, he's played with like backup Brown cast-offs and rubbish like that, So, I mean, he's never had Chubb He's never had that. I mean, has Watson actually signed a piece of paper yet?
Yes.
He can't change his mind.
That's right. He signed off.
He's actually signed a piece of paper.
That was one of the first things I started looking up to find out.
Is there like a photograph of this that you could post to prove that this has actually happened? Because,
but that's what's happened around the league. They would announce these things and people would change their mind. And because everyone's working these people after the news comes out where they're landing. And the Browns continued after Deshaun Watson, after he blew them off and said no. So
my favorite comment of the week is the legal tampering period. I mean, only in America can you have the legal tampering period.
Exactly. I mean, and General Dog, who is he going to throw to? Will Amari Cooper he's going to throw to David Njoku. Now here are the two main questions. Will Fuller?
Fuller's definitely coming. That was one of the things for every team that has been rumored that it's going to be a package that Will Fuller will sign with.
Now, let me tell you this so that you don't waste your time looking this up like I did. Will Fuller only played in 2 games for Miami last year. And after he had left the Texans and he had fractured a finger, a lot like with Jared Allen, but he was gone for the whole back end of the whole, 3/4 of the season, all but 2 games. And as a matter of fact, he was gone. So I've looked him up. He's about a 50 to 60 catch a season guy with about 14 yards, 13 and a half yards per yards per catch. And he's very comfortable, of course, with Deshaun Watson, who he played with for the rest of his career prior to being moved to Miami.
Hey,
so
can I just say quickly?
Sure.
Just to kind of get off of Deshaun for a second, for all the people who say I'm just a Buckeye homer, Moo, did I not say to you in your DMs that Chase Winovich was a great trade?
It's a guy who will serve a purpose. He's very aggressive, and he's a guy who you can use as a blitzing linebacker in essence, and he's an all forward kind of guy. Now, I'm hoping that he's what Mac Wilson was without the trouble and with a more accurate path to the ball. But
he's more of an edge.
Yeah, he's an edge guy, and he's going to be used that way. He's not going to be a run stopper or that kind of thing. And of course, before I get to the other wide receiver situation, there's Jadeveon Clowney. And everything changes when you bring in a big name quarterback, and you don't know. There was comments across the internet about Jarvis Landry actually talking about taking a haircut and coming back.
Can I ask the panel a quick question? I know we're running late. What position do we want to draft first off? What position is our area of need now?
I'm saying DT for me, and a guy I really like is Logan Hall. That's what I would go for, 44.
A lot of it has to do with what you can get for Baker Mayfield and whether you can improve your drafting position. So I can't even begin to answer that. If you're looking at a round 2, number 44 pick, I can't tell you.
I still think it's wide receiver just because of the things that we've talked about for a long time. Still, I mean, I don't know how long Amari is here as far as his contract goes, but in terms of young guys, rookies, I think we're in a perfect scenario right now in terms of, hey, you got a number 1 in Amari Cooper. You can pick a guy, and you're not forcing him into being that role as far as a number 1 guy. So, and by the way, I'm just going to say it now. I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew Berry packaged whatever these picks are that he's going to get for Baker and moved up either into the high second or possibly late first if one of these receivers slips. We know the guys they've talked to.
Well, I mean, right now you're all in as far as quarterback. You got to give him as many weapons as you can. And like I said at the beginning of the program, and I never really came right out and said it, I'll say it now. This AFC is about outscoring your opponent. There isn't enough defense that you could add, really, if you can't score but 21 points a game, you're not going to win in this constructed AFC now. And the Browns did what they had to do. I don't necessarily like the way it was done, and I don't think you ever have to vilify anybody. The fact is, you hold all the cards, and Jimmy Haslam he didn't have to use Jim Donovan. You didn't have to use people's voices who were puppets for the organization and to people to come out with stories. You didn't have to use Mortensen saying that Baker Mayfield was not an adult. They're looking for an adult. You didn't need to do that. You have all the cards you're holding. Just do what you have to do. And I think that's why some people are pissed off, because you don't have to step down that hard on a 27-year-old guy who's headstrong. My God, you can obliterate him 500 times over. You don't have to do that.
So what do you think about the letter? About what's your stance on when Baker released that letter?
I think that it's like what he always does, which he's got to learn from. Which is, you can't just take your marbles and go home. The truth of the matter is, by taking the position that he took, He's still the legal property of the Cleveland Browns. And I don't like to look at it as property, as in slavery, as in these players are owned. But the fact of the matter is, contractually and according to the law, he's still a Cleveland Brown. He can't do anything himself. If he thought that he could exert pressure on the organization to try to bend their arm, he's fooling himself. That's something that a 27-year-old would think. I'm 64 and I don't think that way anymore. The bottom line is, and it's not a matter of just acquiescing to the powers that be, it's the realization. Baker Mayfield wrote a letter and he had no muscle to back it up. He has no leverage. So it was understandable that he was angry about the way the Browns besmirched him. I understand that, but it doesn't help move his career forward.
I'll say this just real quick. I will say it'll be very, very interesting to see if Deshaun Watson countersues all these.
I don't know if that's going to happen, Derek. But, speaking of Baker, though, realistically, with all the bridge that is burned, with all the attitude issues, with all the naysayers on 20 million different, radio shows, TV shows, whatever, are they going to get anything better than a third-round pick from him? I mean, seriously, I don't know if they're going to get that.
They're hoping for a second for Baker, but I mean,
well, yeah. I want to win the lottery this weekend too, but I might even actually get. Never mind, I'm not going to go there. But I'm not going to get that. I'm not getting that.
Carson Wentz. Look at the Carson Wentz trade. That's what I've been hearing.
Carson Wentz has some better history than Baker over the years.
Baker's been devalued by the Browns organization, so they're not going to get much for him. Yeah,
they've just taken that. You're trying to sell a car or a house or whatever, and you've just thrown a bunch of trash in the front yard. They've just kind of. It's not a good situation. They'll get something. Would we like to see a second round pick? Oh, heck yeah, man! Second round picks are players. Third round picks are players for that matter. But it's not good. So they're going to have to get some more free agents, which they have to do. The question now is, how's that cap going to work, right? Because they've also, with these big contracts, kind of put themselves in a little bit.
You got to pray to the baby Jesus that the cap keeps increasing by large numbers. I mean, you're playing from deficit, and it really is. It's a big gamble. It really is.
You're gonna have to lose some guys you want to keep just because of that, and it's gonna be one of those kind of things. They got great cap people though, so that's the good part. So let's see where they can go from there.
All right. Well, I'm through. I mean, this has to have been one of the most democratic, and I kind of like that. When I have a panel of people, I think we all have been following this. We've all done our homework, and again, in the end, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. When you're talking about whether somebody's done the right thing or not, the story will come out in the end. I mean, everything comes out in the wash.
There'll be a lot of dust that's going to have to settle.
And, again, I'm happy that we had good, solid, calm, deliberate conversation about this, as opposed to the yelling, screaming, and the general mayhem of social media, which is really, Derek, what frustrated the hell out of me was the attitude of people and how people would pretend that they're Adam Schefter by having one little change in the character of their signature and mislead people who are
that is the worst.
Vulnerable.
I fell for that as soon as the legal tampering. As soon as that opened up, I was on a space with a couple other friends, and they said, "Hey, we just got is it Allen Robinson? Yeah." And that turned out to be fake. Oh, I was so mad because I really liked Allen Robinson, and then I found out it was fake. Oh, they should be banned on Twitter. If you create a fake reporting account, you should be immediately banned.
And it adds to the frustration of the whole thing. So, we have our answer in one regard of what happened. How it plays out is what's next. Anger is not the answer. It will never be the answer on this program. If you want to continue with ranting in the chat room, Brian, feel free. I think that you've known me for years, and there comes a point where we just have to talk about what happened. And then we watch it play out. And then one of us will say, God, when I said this, man, I was totally wrong. Or another person will say, hey, I got this one right.
Yeah.
There's no real definite answers here.
Which, Moo, I think that is the big thing here. Me and you are, at least again, on my side. I'm not mad. I was just, there's so much stuff. And I've said things not just, in regards to you about reports. I've said things to other people, just out of anger. So, it's unfortunate. We live in our emotions. I've certainly said a lot of dumb things over, time and stuff like that, but you got to take emotion out of it sometimes. I know that's hard to do. Wonder what Steven's thinking about all this.
Well, I mean, he could probably tell us what it's like to watch Deshaun Watson when he's halfway looped after half of a bottle of whiskey. I don't know. I mean, everybody has got their own opinion. And it's my experience that the Texans, and let's be the last thing I'll say before I have to get out of here, the Texans are a low-tier team. And I'm not saying that to be critical of just factual. The Browns have been a low-tier team in the NFL. And a lot of it has to do with, what they did to David Cullen, why they brought him in for 1 year and then dumped his ass. And you don't give these coaches anything to play with. And Cullen's only year had to be without Deshaun Watson. Would we ever know whether he could coach a football team? And then, the whole thing that drove Watson away, which was Caserio, is that his name? The guy who's they brought in.
It's the ownership. That was the big riff. There was a big disagreement or argument, I should say, between Watson and the ownership. And then they brought Caserio in hopes to fix it, and it didn't work.
Right. And so there's so many things going on. I just want to thank everybody for on the panel for doing a great job with this. And we'll be back again. Oh my God, I can't believe. Is it Friday already? We'll be back again on Monday. And if anything else happens in between, I might throw some more editorials on the channel because, I'd like to have a solid time where I can, news team assemble, we can do that.
Peter are going to go get some sleep.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Cavs game coming up in about 10 minutes.
Yes, there is. And it's going to be another tough one. They're all tough ones right now. But, we'll see what happens with the Cavaliers. I hope that they played hard against the Sixers and lost. So we'll see if playing hard gets them through tonight. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Back again on Monday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night. Thanks, guys.